Hooman Majd is geboren in Iran en groeide op in het Westen. Hij werkt als journalist en schreef verschillende boeken over Iran. In Een democratie van ayatollahs beschrijft hij zijn bezoek aan het Islamitische land tijdens de vorige verkiezingen en betoogt hij dat er veel minder verschillen zijn tussen Iran en het Westen dan je zou vermoeden.
Most average Americans, if they only followed the news on Iran the way that it's presented, wouldn't even know that there is a parliament, wouldn't even know that there are three branches of government in Iran, like America. There's the executive, the legislative, which is the parliament, and then there's the judiciary, and they're independent, those three branches. But most people wouldn't know that. Now, if I'm Iranian and I'm explaining Iran or saying, well, wait a sec, it's not exactly the way you think it is, it sounds like you're defending Iran. It sounds like you're defending Iran versus America, against America, and that's not the case. Criticism is well-deserved where it needs to be, but it's also, you have to look at other aspects too. Iran today is still, despite everything that has happened, is probably still more democratic than Egypt. But no American would ever either think that or would occur to them that here in Egypt you have a president who's been president for 28 years. Egypt has a state of emergency law that has been in effect since President Mubarak took over, where a gathering of more than 5 people is illegal. So if 6 people go to dinner in a restaurant in Egypt, that's technically illegal. I'm not saying they get arrested every time, but technically that's illegal. So Iran today, even today, as bad as it can be in terms of freedom, is still probably a lot more free than some other countries, and certainly more free than Saudi Arabia, which is a big ally of ours, ally of the United States, and just selling them $60 billion worth of arms. And nobody thinks that Saudi Arabia shouldn't, nobody, but most people don't think it shouldn't be an ally. So it's understanding who our supposed adversaries are. But in terms of fearing Iran, I think it's overblown, and I don't think we should fear Iran as much as we do. And I think that it's very unlikely, no matter how much you despise the government of Iran or even the political system of Iran, the truth of the matter is Iran tends to be very realistic and very practical when it comes to national security, and nobody can say for sure that they will never have a nuclear weapon. But I think it's far less threatening, their nuclear program, than Pakistan's is, far less threatening than North Korea's even. But yes, Ahmadinejad uses Iranian rhetoric depending on the audience he's speaking to. Sometimes his rhetoric is designed for his audience, sometimes his rhetoric is designed for a larger Muslim audience, sometimes it's designed for an Arab audience. And when I say misinterpreted, many of the things he's said are misinterpreted. They're simply mistranslations, actually. Even what has become standard is that he said that Israel should be wiped off the map. Well, he actually never said that. What he said was, his exact words were, this regime that occupies Jerusalem will disappear from time, from the pages of time, or disappear from the map. You can translate it however you want. But he didn't say, should be wiped off the map. Israel should be wiped off the map. And whenever he's explained it, whenever anybody's asked him, he's explained that. But it stuck. That translation that came out the first day he said that stuck. So it became like, oh, well, this is a man who wants to build a bomb and then drop it on Israel to make it be wiped off the map. Well, that's not true. I mean, if you were to rely only on the media to understand Iran, or even some books that are written by people who are very against the Iranian regime, then you would come to that conclusion that Iran is an absolute dictatorship on the level of, let's say, a North Korea. The truth is, of course, it isn't for anybody who goes there. But again, because most people don't have the opportunity to travel there or immerse themselves in the culture, they don't get that opportunity to see that. So we are restricted by what the media portrays Iran, and in particularly the American media, but to some degree Western European media as well. Well, I think sanctions are always something that governments like to do so they can say they've done something. Look at America and Cuba, and look at the embargo of Cuba. It's 60 years now. Nothing has happened, or 50 years and nothing has happened. Sanctions, Myanmar, Burma, nothing has happened there. Sanctions don't really do anything to a government, and they certainly don't force a government to change, in my opinion. They didn't work in Iraq either. With Saddam Hussein. They only end up hurting the ordinary person. They also tend to decimate a middle class, and the middle class is what makes up civil society. So even if you believe in human rights, even if your biggest concern is human rights and not the nuclear issue, then you would want to support civil society. You would want to support the opposition to Ahmadinejad. If you impose sanctions, you're actually hurting them. You're hurting them directly on their livelihood and the way that they do business and the way they live, their living standard. And if you take away those threats, you take away that pressure, you don't give the government an excuse to crack down all the time on an opposition by saying that it's part of a Western plot to overthrow the government or a Western pressure to undermine the Islamic Republic. That's the view in Iran, that American government can't stand the Iranian government, has not been able to stand it since the hostage crisis of 1979 to 1980, and they're just looking for a way to punish Iran. So that's the view. Doesn't help.